Hi, this is Brooke Booth, life coach at Mormon Mix, life coach for Mormon mixed faith marriages at brookeboothcoaching.com. I'm going to talk about tithing in this Facebook Live. Now, tithing is, if you're LDS, you know what, and it's often a topic that comes up in a mixed faith marriage. I know, no surprise there. I want to talk about. I received a message recently. I moderate the Facebook page Mormon Mixed Faith Marriage, and I got a message the other day from a member wanting to post anonymously on the site about tithing, and this is what she said. She says, I've been concerned about tithing. It's a struggle with 4 kids, and I have a hard time with the fact that so much of our money is going to the church. How do you all handle that? I've tried to compromise with my husband, and he's not willing to compromise on this. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity to share my message and my thoughts on that here. So here is how I would answer that question. I think tithing is ultimately less about money and more about how decisions are made in a mixed faith marriage, really in any marriage, but specifically in this context in a mixed faith marriage. And I've seen several approaches, around tithing that work for a lot of mixed faith marriages, and I'll share those brainstorm for your own marriages. But like I said, I think this topic is really an interesting window into partnership and decision making. So after I give you a few ideas on how it's worked for some people, I want to talk about that because I think that's a much bigger issue and more important issue to address. So here are ways some couples have managed this issue. And this is sort of just action line things, ideas to consider to deal with tithing. One is if you're a 2-income family, each income earner decides if tithing is paid on their income. And I realize this can be more challenging if the incomes are not equal, but that's one solution that works for some people. If a single income, and really this can work well for a 2-income household too, the designated 10% can be divided, and one partner decides how 5% of that is spent, and one decides on how the other 5% is spent. Another option I've seen, and this works well for single or 2-income houses, is one partner spends 10% on tithing and they get to donate that to the church. And the other partner gets to decide how 10% of the income is spent on whatever they want, no questions asked, no negotiation around that. Now, those are some ideas. And again, the purpose there isn't to say, here are your options, choose one. The purpose is to say, here are some things that work for some people to get the juices flowing in your own head and the brainstorming working in your own head so you can come up with solutions that uniquely fit you and your marriage. Now I want to address the issue around decisions because like I said earlier, I think this is actually the bigger issue involved in any sort of tithing conversation. A lot of how we decide and pay tithing in a mixed faith marriage is a reflection of how decisions are made in your marriage. And the question is, do you like that? Why or why not? So making decisions in a marriage is a basic skill that unfortunately is sometimes left very underdeveloped. I know in my own marriage, we struggled for years with making decisions, and we struggled in really putting into place the communication that needed to take place in order to make the decisions, with things like tithing. So in order to improve this area, what I had to do is I had to take responsibility for the part I was playing in the decision fiasco. I had to really take a look at that, take responsibility, and clean that up as best as I could. So for me personally, I realized a lot of the problems I was causing is I was showing up as a petitioner instead of as a partner in our marriage. So if I wanted to make a change in our marriage, I would dance around the issue, I would complain, I would point out why they're like this, but I wouldn't ever be direct in addressing my concerns and stating my preferences. So with tithing, this might look like commenting on all the other things that we could do with the money, like house renovations or kid activities, or complaining about how the church uses tithing money, maybe complaining about how they don't pay for cleaners or how the budgets are appropriated for young women versus young men. This is an example of dancing around, showing up as a petitioner, not being clear and direct in stating your concerns and your preferences. And what it caused for me is it led me to feeling disempowered in the decision-making process in our relationship, and it led to my husband feeling overburdened. So when I stopped complaining and I started to learn how to directly state my opinion and preference, when I asked for a discussion to take place, it fundamentally changed how I felt about tithing and paying tithing. When we did this, believe it or not, we didn't really actually make huge change in what we paid to the church, but it shifted significantly how I felt about it. So I felt like I was heard and my viewpoint was considered, and that together we jointly made a choice. Then I was able to move forward without tithing being an issue between us. Now, sometimes when I see the amount coming out of our bank account, I cringe a little, like, ooh, and I have to remind myself, I can open up this topic of discussion again if I want, and we can make another decision if needed. And the best part of this is I know I showed up as a partner and not as a petitioner. I know that I was 100% clear on what I wanted and that we compromised and we made a decision that honored us both. So now I can look at the decision we have around tithing and I don't have regret or frustration or resentment around it because this was a decision that we made together. We both liked our reasons. We both felt it was respectful and honest and loving for us and our family. And so guess what tithing is? It's not an issue. So that's what I want to suggest to you. If tithing's a really sore spot in your marriage and it is just causing resentment and frustration, it might be really beneficial to look into how that decision was or was not made. What was the decision-making process behind however tithing is handled in your marriage? And I would look very closely at that and find out how you are complicit in that decision. You know, you might be just super frustrated with how the funds are spent. I had to really be honest with myself about how I was showing up as a petitioner. And I would have been like, me? Petitioner? No, but I was. So it took some gentle introspection to recognize that and decide to show up differently. And then it made a huge change in now how I feel about tithing. And it's just not an issue for us today in our marriage. Okay, I hope you found this helpful. If you want to get some help from a life coach on your mixed faith marriage, let's talk, you and I. Go over to brookeboothcoaching.com, my website, and click on, there's a green button that says schedule a free call with me. I have a group starting in the beginning of February, and you might want to be in that group. You might want to be somebody in that group where I teach some of what I consider the foundational tools, the foundational ideas, the foundational strategies to really have a successful mixed faith marriage. I teach them all in this course, and of course I do a ton of coaching on specific issues to my clients in that group. All right, wishing you the very, very best in your Mormon mixed faith marriage.